Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us again for what is the final session of the SC Digital Congress. I hope you've enjoyed the morning so far. I certainly have done. I'll introduce our closing speaker in a second. Just as a quick reminder, if you haven't joined us before, that you can enter your questions on the right or below of the virtual stream. Feel free to submit those at any point during the presentation. So without any further ado, I'll hand over to our next speaker. I'm delighted that she's joined us today. She is Lisa Ventura MBE. She's the founder of Cybersecurity Unity, and she's going to talk about managing the human risks in cybersecurity systems. So without any further ado, Lisa, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much, David, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Managing the Human Risks in Cybersecurity Systems. It's an absolute pleasure to be talking to you today. Just a small little bit about myself. I'm a senior cybersecurity specialist at Qualitest, and I am the founder of Cybersecurity Unity. This is a global content hub and community organization that I've set up to help unite the cybersecurity industry. And I'm also a writer, blogger, and speaker, and cybersecurity is my absolute passion. So anybody that knows me knows how much I'm really passionate about cyber, and particularly the human elements around cybersecurity. So just to kick this off, I'd like to begin by addressing what is a common myth that I'm sure we've all heard, which is that from a cybersecurity perspective, humans are the weakest link and often an organization's biggest weakness. But in reality, humans are your organization's best line of defense. And from a psychological perspective, if we hear often enough that as humans, we are the weakest link when it comes to cybersecurity, we will begin to believe it. And as a result, organizations will be much more vulnerable to cyber attacks. But what if there is another way of looking at the human element in cybersecurity and cybersecurity systems? So organizations need to turn around the fact that humans are the weakest link and really turn that analogy around when it comes to cybersecurity and see their employees as their main line of defense against cyber attacks, but only if organizations are willing to see them as such. So I'd like to move on to a few shocking statistics that have been published recently by CyberEdge Group. They released their 2023 defense report in April, and this report is a comprehensive review of the perceptions of 1,200 IT security professionals over 17 countries and 19 industries. And their research showed that 82% of all cyber attacks involve the human element. And another study by IBM cited human error as the main cause of 95% of cybersecurity breaches, which is a massive number. 78% of ransomware attacks include threats beyond data encryption. And 72% of respondents believe that their employers will be victimized by a cyber attack in the coming year. A few more statistics that came from this report. 97% of IT security leaders engage directly with their board of directors when it comes to cybersecurity. And the typical security budget is increasing more than 5% this year. And money is the main motivation for earning an IT security professional qualification. So there are some really strong statistics when it comes to the human element in cybersecurity. So people are never more central when it comes to the impact of technology, information, and insecurity. Social engineering relies on exploiting human psychology rather than only exploiting technical weaknesses alone. So, for example, an attack that exploits a vulnerable piece of software, there's always a human element in the production of that software. And artificial intelligence, which on the surface sounds deeply technical, is not only built by people, but it has been shown to exhibit human biases in ways that can be extremely harmful. So there isn't a single person alive who doesn't make mistakes, and it's how we grow and learn as people. The only exception to this I've seen is the narcissistic personality type who believes that they're perfect in every way and that they never, ever do anything wrong. And that's an extremely dangerous way of being, particularly in cybersecurity. So how can organizations identify, assess, and efficiently manage human risks in cybersecurity today? Well, firstly, you should look at perhaps building a human firewall within your organizations. And seeing your employees as the weakest link in your cyber defenses is inaccurate. And instead, you should view them to be your first vital line of defense. And that could be through awareness training or becoming cyber defenders or cyber champions. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on in this presentation. So in short, really build your human firewall against cyber attacks, and also get them to feel that they're making a positive contribution when it comes to cybersecurity within your organization. And another thing to do is to get the board on board with cybersecurity. And this, I think, is absolutely crucial, because if you can get your board on board with cybersecurity and strongly communicate the need for them to take the growing cyber threat seriously, this will cascade down and through your organization. And you may have more success with this if you move away from explaining the features and capabilities of the technology they want to invest in, and instead focus on what it is that enables your business to achieve. And this approach will speak a lot more clearly to your board's primary purpose of creating stakeholder value. As technology-focused professionals, it's essential to understand the purpose and strategy of the business in the same way that the board understands it, and to answer the question, how do I make sure that what I'm doing contributes to my organization's success? And this perspective should shape the way that information is presented to the board and ensure that they get data that is relevant and helps them with business decisions that they need to make. CISOs in particular should think about how the cybersecurity strategy impacts all the stakeholders that the board is concerned with, such as investors, customers, employees, and regulators. And linked to this is explaining not just what cybersecurity investment prevents from happening, such as downtime, financial loss, and the compliance risk, but framing also what it enables: business continuity, customer trust, a better employee experience, and reduced complexity. And this is particularly relevant as businesses move to update existing cybersecurity technologies to newer solutions that are more user-friendly and less intrusive. For example, if identity access management can now be achieved safely with lower friction for users, this offers an immediate productivity benefit. So articulating the people, process, technology message is really important. And if board communications are couched in terms of the latest and greatest technology products, it can be hard for directors to make the connection to what it means for the day-to-day experience of the business and people within it. And this is something that's understood more clearly for other risk topics such as health and safety. And it should also be translatable to security technology. And another thing I would say as well when talking to the board is try to get rid of, we have so much jargon in our industry and so many acronyms, and we all know what many of them mean, but the board and your employees may not necessarily understand what a DDoS attack is, for example. So really look at the language that you're using. Make sure it's clear, that it's jargon-free, and that it's easy to understand. And even today, I still have conversations, particularly with smaller businesses and SMEs around cybersecurity. And they will all still say to me, but we're too small. We don't need to worry about our cybersecurity posture. We're not going to get attacked. But I think the crucial thing is they often don't understand the cyber risk and what it means to them and their business. So really get to grips with that language and make sure that you're using language that's jargon free and that really speaks to your target audience. So where I would begin with looking at the human factors within cybersecurity systems is look at conducting a comprehensive risk assessment that focuses solely on the human factors, and use this to identify potential vulnerabilities and threats that arise from human behavior, such as weak passwords or even insider threats, and evaluate the potential impact and likelihood of these risks arising. Develop and implement clear cybersecurity policies and procedures that address the human risks. And these policies should outline acceptable use of technology, data protection measures, incident reporting protocols. So if the worst does happen and that there is an incident, how would somebody go about reporting that? And also try to remove the fear of reporting incidents. So some employees with the best will in the world might just inadvertently click on a link of some description. So remove those barriers, and make it okay to report the fact that they've clicked on something inadvertently, rather than have a policy of perhaps shaming employees that do that. We're all human and mistakes do happen. So if you have a clear policy and a clear pathway to those kind of incidents being reported as well, remedial measures can then be put in place quickly to mitigate anything that may happen. Also look at perhaps consequences for non-compliance. And again, that just ties a bit into that reporting process as well. And ensure that all your employees are aware of these policies and regularly communicate any changes or updates to them, to all your employees within the business. One thing that I'm really passionate about and really big on is providing ongoing cybersecurity education and awareness training to all employees. And this could cover topics as well, such as recognizing phishing attempts, how to create strong passwords, implementing two-factor authentication, and the secure handling of sensitive and confidential data and information. And conduct some regular training sessions, workshops, and simulated exercises to really reinforce those good security practices. So, for example, some things that I've done in the past that have worked really well are things like cyber escape rooms, cybersecurity phishing simulation exercises, and really get your employees feeling part of it, and that they do have a part to play in helping make sure that your organization stays as secure as possible. And also look at real world experiences. So again, a lot of the things that I find really works is relate it back to your employees' day-to-day lives and their personal lives, and get them thinking around the security of things like when they log on to their online banking, even when they're using WhatsApp. For example, I've had a lot of people caught out by the recent WhatsApp scam, where they received a message pertaining to be from a son or a daughter requesting money, and the parent then thinks it really is their son or daughter contacting them, transfers that money, and then it's too late. And that actually happened to my own cousin, who was really busy rushing around to get from A to B, had this message, she thought it was her daughter, transferred some money, then it was too late. But Santander were really good and refunded her back in the end. But it's really, really easy to fall, for one of these if you're really busy and you might miss it. And CEO fraud as well, that's another key thing to look out for. So emails pertaining to be from the CEO or other senior people within your organization, usually always with a sense of urgency, asking you to transfer some money or get some vouchers or do something for them really, really quickly. Just stop for a moment and just think, is this the sort of thing that the CEO would really ask me to do? At Qualitest, I've had a couple of those myself pertaining to be from Abney, the CEO, wanting me to do something really quickly. And I knew straight away it just wasn't Abney, that it wasn't the sort of request that I would get from him. So I reported those emails straight away, and then further remedial measures were put in place by IT. So really be mindful about that, because there's some things that can really catch you out if you're really busy, and could potentially be missed. So another area that could really work well is having a cybersecurity champions program to nurture and encourage cyber awareness within your organization. And this could combine education with peer-to-peer collaboration to embed a culture of security understanding, support, and positive behavior among your workforce. And a typical program could be from all individuals from different departments who will act as cybersecurity advocates for their function and help to shape that organization's cybersecurity approach internally. And these are growing in popularity across a wide range of industries, and they've proven to be very beneficial, so much so that they've now become integral components of some organizations' cybersecurity awareness strategies. And the benefits of having a well-orchestrated cybersecurity champions program may differ depending on factors such as the size and sector of your organization. But the general advantages are universal, and many experts agree on this. And to truly engage people in cybersecurity and positively influence their behaviors, it's key that the why of everything that we talk about is explained well. And when done well, a cybersecurity champions program is more effective than achieving this as anything else. And Dr. Jessica Barker, MBE, co-founder at Sygenta, who, like myself, talks a lot about the human element in cybersecurity, has said that the Champions program can allow you to scale up your awareness raising, can help you tailor your communications to make them as relevant as possible, and also increase incident reporting. But most importantly, a successful Champions program is one of the best ways to listen to your colleagues throughout your organization and understand their perceptions and challenges regarding cybersecurity. So another thing that could help is establish an incident reporting mechanism that actively encourages employees to report suspicious activities or security incidents promptly, and implement a well-defined incident response plan to ensure that incidents are managed efficiently when they are reported. And as I said earlier, encouraging that culture of openness and being able to report an incident without fear to facilitate early detection and mitigation is absolutely key. Also look at implementing strong user access controls. So that will limit access privileges based on job roles and responsibilities. And so if you apply the principle of least privilege, granting users only the permissions necessary for their tasks, and regularly review and revoke unnecessary access rights to minimize the potential for insider threats. And also look at your exit strategy for when an employees leaves your organization, and having that clear policy in place as well for not just onboarding, but also offboarding. But when onboarding your employees as well, having cybersecurity awareness as part of the induction process from the very start can also be key to ensuring that all employees really think about their cybersecurity awareness posture within your organization from the very start. Also look at enforcing the use of strong authentication mechanisms, such as multi-factor authentication, to add that extra layer of security, and encourage employees to perhaps utilize things like managers and avoid password reasons. So have a policy where, for example, they can't use the same password more than once. Regularly remind them to update the passwords and educate your employees on the importance of securing their credentials. Also look at having some robust monitoring and logging mechanisms in place to track user activities and detect anomalies. So monitor network traffic, for example, using behavior and system logs, just to identify any suspicious or unauthorized activities. And also look at what devices are onto your network. So shadow IT, for example, can be quite a problem. Employ intrusion detection and prevention systems as well to proactively identify potential human-related risks. Also look at the third-party management risks associated with your vendors, your contractors, and your partners who might also have access to your systems and data. Regularly conduct due diligence checks on their own security practices and establish contractual obligations regarding their cybersecurity. We've all heard about the MOVEit one recently, which was a third-party supply chain issue that affected the BBC, British Airways, Aer Lingus, and Boots. And I think we're only going to see a lot more of these type of attacks as third-party supply chains are a lot more vulnerable. So regularly monitor their compliance with security requirements and make sure that it aligns to what you're doing as well. Incorporate cybersecurity responsibilities into all your employee performance, evaluations, and reward employees that consistently adhere to security policies and demonstrate good cybersecurity practices. And this approach will really help to foster a culture of accountability within your organization and reinforce the importance of security as well. Look at regularly reviewing and updating your security measures based on changing threats and the evolving human risks. Analyze security incidents and near misses if they do happen, and identify areas for improvement. And also collect feedback from employees and stakeholders to refine your training programs, your policies, and your procedures. And by following a lot of these steps, organizations can effectively identify, assess, and efficiently manage human risks within your cybersecurity. And by integrating security into organizational culture and processes, you can significantly enhance your overall cybersecurity posture. And as I said earlier, we're all human and mistakes will happen. But if you look at all of this together within your organizations and really get everybody on board with their cybersecurity and what it means to your organization, you'll hopefully have a lot more success in dealing with cyber attacks or things like that within your organization. So I've put some further reading and resources, and I'm happy to send this out to anybody that would like it after this talk. So I've put a link to the recent Cyber Edge Group defense report and a piece about the human firewall, which is your first line of defense against cyber criminals from security. I've also put a link to the cybersecurity toolkit for boards from the National Cybersecurity Centre, because that can be a good starting place. And also a link to Sygenta and Dr. Jessica Barker, MBE, who has produced a lot of really good videos on her YouTube channel, specifically addressing some of the human factor elements that organizations can take more seriously and have a look at. So I'm happy to take any questions or have a bit of an open discussion about these. So please pop your questions in the chat. I've put a few ways as well that you can get in touch with me. I can be found on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram, and also for my web channels. And I'd like to thank you for listening to my presentation today. Happy to take any questions, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.
Sorry. Thanks for that, Lisa. Really great presentation there. Very comprehensive look at that, look at this subject. We have had one question come through, quite a specific question, just which is asking, could you explain more about how you run cyber escape rooms?
Absolutely. So I conducted these when I did some work at Pin St Masons with the CISO there, Christian Toon. And we started off by doing in-person escape rooms, because this was 2019, just before the pandemic. And we had a series of different clues and challenges that people within the organization had to solve and go around. And we had them in different rooms in the Pin St Masons offices. And we had different departments as well within Pin St Masons come in and undertake these challenges to going from place to place and unlocking these different clues and so on. And it worked really, really well. But then when the pandemic hit, we had to transition that to being virtual. And honestly, it didn't work quite as well in the virtual setting. But if you've got enough people to conduct a few of these cyber escape rooms, and we did them with in conjunction with Living Well Security. So again, I'm happy to send the link to Living Well Security to you, and work with them to design a really bespoke program for that that was specific to Pin St Masons. But it worked really, really well in in-person perspective. And I would say if you could get some groups of around sort of 10 to 15 people that might then split out into smaller groups, that worked really well as well. So happy to send out some further information about those and how they worked from the Pin St Mason perspective as well.
Great, thanks, Lisa. There's another question, which is, I guess, on a similar theme about training and awareness.
Yeah.
And essentially, the question is there anything that's really totally new and innovative that you've seen people doing, or that's coming down the pipe? I mean, in terms of how you can get people engaged with these things.
Absolutely. So gamification within cybersecurity awareness training, I'm starting to see a lot more of that come through. And I've also been talking to James Bohr of Bohr Consultancy Group around this. He's somebody that's been doing a lot of gamification within cyber. And some of the things he's putting out at the moment is absolutely fantastic. And I'm looking at trying to implement a lot more gamification. And even things like, for example, he utilizes a platform called Gather, whereby you can get people together into one space. And it's not like Zoom or Teams where you're just sort of faces on a screen. You can actually create different areas, different rooms. You can jump to different areas within it. And from a virtual perspective, I'm looking at Gather for cybersecurity awareness training to see if that could potentially be a good platform for the virtual aspect of it and the escape rooms that I talked about. Didn't have Gather at the time that I did the work with Pin St Masons, but certainly gamification and more interactive video stuff as well, I think is coming out. And as I said, Dr. Jessica Barker's got some really great videos on the human factor of cybersecurity, and I really recommend checking those out.
Great, thanks for that, Lisa. So we've got time for one final question, which is essentially that people are hired for their specialist on the job skills, not because they might be particularly good at cybersecurity or particularly aware of those threats. I mean, the question here, I'll put it directly, is would you fire a person who is not good at cybersecurity, or would you rather accept the risk of having good employees with weak cybersecurity posture? I guess I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm guessing you'd say you wouldn't fire somebody. So I guess maybe the question is perhaps more, how would you sanction those people who are, let's say, laggards in this area?
That is a really good question, David, and a really tricky one as well, because you're right, you could potentially lose a really, really good person in a specific area that may not, fully grasp the concept of cybersecurity. And I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier about the language you use and the way you deliver that to really resonate with them. And if you can get them really thinking about it from that personal perspective of things like, how would you feel if this happened to you and you would logged into your online banking and this happened and so on. So using those real world examples to really bring it to life is absolutely crucial. I think I've seen a lot of technical jargon, as I said earlier, and acronyms and so on, and I think as well, firing somebody, I think that's quite a step too far in terms of losing a good person. So really review your own training and really get that language right from the get-go. And I really cannot emphasize that enough. And I can give you a classic example. 2 or 3 years ago, just before the pandemic, I got asked to evaluate a 2-day cybersecurity awareness training course run by PGI Cyber, a new training academy in Bristol. And I went down there, and it was a room full of accountants and lawyers and so on. And it was run by the 2 people that were as technical as they come. And they were talking in all the acronyms, all the jargon, DDoS, this and so on. And you could see the audience was just completely glazed over. And I spent some time in the lunch break and in the breaks talking to the people there and saying, well, when they said this, they meant that. We get it now. We understand it. We get what's meant by MFA and DDoS and so on. And that was my feedback to PGI Cyber, was that use of language, or having one technical person, which is absolutely right to do, but also having somebody else that could translate a lot of what the technical person was saying into much easier to understand language. So, it is a tricky one. And I would say, really look at that language and really to work with anybody that is lapsing on a cybersecurity perspective, or they have been caught out. And as I said earlier, make sure that you don't sort of have that culture of fear. So if somebody does click on something inadvertently, they're happy to report it rather than think, oh my goodness, I'm going to get fired if I do report it. I really want to try and shy away from that if possible.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lisa. Okay, well, I think we're a little bit over time. Thank you for answering those questions. There are obviously a lot of interest in the topics that you covered. So yeah, thanks very much for that presentation, Lisa. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just going to wrap up with a few quick final remarks. Firstly, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Mimecast and Rapid7, for supporting the event today and making it possible for us to bring this to you free of charge. I'd like to thank our partners, the Chartered Institute of Information Security and ICS Squared. I'd like to thank our speakers, of course. I think we've had some fantastic presentations covering the full range of topics facing cybersecurity. And most of all, certainly last but not least, I'd like to thank you all for joining us. Thanks for the questions. You've obviously been a really engaged audience. I hope you got a lot out of this, and I hope to see you again at an SC event very soon. Thanks very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.